Hello, you. I've just watched through this week's episode, and I feel I do have to warn you that it's sexy. It's one of my favourite episodes ever, but it's really sexy. One for just the adults, I'd say. Enjoy.
What part of you is your buggle-boo?
What does romance have to do with the Romans?
And what do you call someone who isn't a virgin?
Gird your loins and grab your Kama Sutra because we're playing at hot cockles and discussing the shaking of the sheets on this definitely not safe for work episode of Words Unravelled, all about love and sex.
Welcome to another Words Unravelled. I'm Rob Watts from the YouTube channel Rob Words.
And I'm Jess Ferris, author of etymology books, including Useless Etymology, and more pertinently for this episode, Words from Hell, because we are talking about romance and sex and stuff.
I'll tell you what, I've not been as worried about an episode as I am as this one since the swearing episode, because I know this is going to be a blush fest. I was blushing while I was doing my research, but the aim here is to talk about love and sex.
You know, what one tends to lead to the other, not necessarily.
They are themselves bedfellows. You don't have to flow in either direction. So let's start off with the words. That's what we're here to do. Weird thing is, we only really have one word for love. We have a lot of words for sex.
English is not unique for that necessarily, but one thing that's unique about Arabic poetry, for example, is that there are many different words for many different types of love, including physical and romantic ones. And I didn't bring them with me, but it's very beautiful. And we tend to have one and a lot of other ways of describing it that are less direct.
We just have this one earthy Germanic word, love. It's very similar across all of our Germanic sister languages. Although if you trace it back far enough, you find an ancestor that is shared by the Latin libido as well. And also, by the way, so libido means like desire, but there's this Sanskrit word which is love, L-U-B-H, and that means confusion, which I think is really telling. It's related to love, right? I read into that what you will.
Another one we have for love in general, kind of, or the state of being in love or the state of pursuing love is romance, of course, which we talk about the word romance a lot because we talk about romance languages a lot. So what do romance languages and Roman things have to do with romantic things in the love and sex sense? This is a little bit circuitous. When it first entered English in the 13th or 14th century, it only had a tangential connection to love and sex. Its first sense in English was that of a hero's journey, especially in knights. That's what a romance was. And the sense and the word in general came to English from Old French, and it was a word for a verse narrative, which is, we've also got our romantic poets, right?
Yeah, and the French word for a novel is roman.
Right.
Basically all novels are romances in a way.
The coming-of-age story is also called a Bildungsroman, right?
Yeah, it is. Very good. German.
The secondary meaning of the French word originally was the vulgar or vernacular language. And the idea, the shift from Roman-style writing to chivalric tales was due to this medieval era popularity of stories about extraordinary journeys and heroism that were shared among common people, in contrast to more dry, religious, legal, less fanciful Latin texts. So like the stories of the Roman populace rather than Latin formal language. And this was translated through like the stories of knights and their fair loves and things like that. And so we ended up with romantic tales being love stories.
Okay, so that does explain why you see interchangeably sometimes the use of the phrase vulgar Latin and romance or early romance, because they're both talking about just a sort of people's version of Latin rather than the classical one.
Vulgar, not in the sexy sense here too, but in not in the rude sense.
No, both forms of vulgarity are going to come up. We'll talk about our favorite book, the Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue, as well at some point. It's certainly going to come up. Let's just get on with it. Let's talk about sex then. Sex. I've just bugged.
But hey, That's relevant, see? Because this has to do with the same root as the word insect, right?
Right. Yeah. We borrow the word sex from French. Of course we do. Are you interested in what the word for sex was in Old English? Did you already know this?
Tell me.
It's yamana, which means a thing shared.
That's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, it is a euphemism of sorts, right? And basically all of our words for sex are euphemisms. In fact, you can say that the word sex itself is a euphemism. Although what's interesting about sex is that it doesn't mean the act of sexual intercourse until way more recently than you might think. That's like an 1800s thing, having sex. Before that, it exclusively means, your bits and what categories the nature of your bits
right
put you in.
These sexes.
Yeah, exactly. But tell us about this link with insects.
Well, okay, so you mentioned that the Old English word has to do with together time. This is kind of the opposite of that. It's related to words like section and sect, and it implies a division between the sexes.
Sex is a differentiator, basically, which kind of makes it a kind of sense. By the way, some other really old words for sex. It used to be called fellow red. I don't know if you ever heard this. So fellow red is like red is a suffix that you could use as an alternative to ship. So basically sex was called fellowship. One of the terms for it in Middle English. And another one was swive, which I really hate. Like to swive someone is to have sex with it. That's used by Chaucer. He writes in the Miller's Tale. So the Miller's Tale is basically a tale of adultery, right? Of an old carpenter whose missus is sleeping with the lodger, right? And so at one point, Chaucer writes, "Thus swived was the carpenter's wife for all his keeping and his jealousy." Swived. Mm-hmm. Not into that at all. I have got quite a big list of
I would
old
love
words
to hear
for
more.
sex. Do you want to hear them all now?
I do. So seduce me, which means literally to lead away someone with these words for.
It will be a diversion. Although they are diversionary in themselves insofar as I mentioned, they're euphemistic. Like there are lots of sort of fun old euphemistic phrases for having sex. You've got at the service of Venus, which
I love that one.
Like you see, read all these old texts that say the guy's knackered because he's been at the service of Venus. There's a popular term from the 1600s and 1700s. It was sort of a brief candle, not used much after that, but it refers to as the shaking of the sheets, which was originally a dance, but became a term for having sex for obvious reasons.
I mean, it kind of evokes the like beast with two backs and the black ram and the white ewe kind of thing.
Yeah. It basically means to play at hot cockles, which is another phrase from the 17th century. That makes sense.
Very nice.
His gentlewoman has been at hot cockles without her husband, and he's horn mad pont. That's
no.
A quote from 1687 for you there.
The notion of horniness then is quite old then, even if we didn't quite use it that way.
Yeah, this guy is absolutely furious about it. From the 1600s onwards, you might have heard this. This sounds like a way I would refer to it, but they just call it to do the other thing. And one that appears in Francis Grose's Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue. So this is this book that tries to document and perhaps also made up some sort of London slang, some dockyard slang from the 1700s. Describes sex as doing Moll Pratley's jig.
Or, who is that?
Yeah, well, so Moll Pratley, also known as Moll Peatley, is a fabled, excuse my use of the word, a fabled whore, right? We would say a sex worker now, but the whole point of it is that it's supposed to be pejorative. And this is quite common. There's quite a lot of citations in the dictionary for dancing Moll Peatley's jig or Moll Pratley's jig. As Grose paraphrases it, a rogering bout. That's what it means. But there are some just really horrible old words for it, like quiffing. I really don't like quiffing. Poop noddy. That was a 1600s.
None of these are better than the word, like any of the actual words for this.
What about, you might like this one. This is one from the Victorians. Firkytoodling.
Okay, I like that one. I've read that one.
Firkytoodling. To mess about, to take liberties, to firkytoodle. But you also have whopping, niggling, wantonizing, belly flopping, and this is actually my favourite, miskissing. Like, you just slipped.
Oops.
Whoopsie daisy.
Just I tripped and fell. And
terms for sex from down the ages. Not one of them really hitting the nail on the head as far as telling you what's going on.
I do like that we use like even the word coitus, which is probably the more clinical term that you could use for this other than like intimacy, which is definitely euphemistic. Even coitus is euphemistic because it means a coming together and not I mean, yes, yeah. That too, but but also.
But what are we hoping for from a more precise term? Like something
very
like penny kunis or something. Just something that refers to those two bits. But they don't necessarily, I mean, that's not it, is it? It's not necessarily those two bits have to be involved.
Oh my goodness.
Listen to me not daring to say the words. I think we're by the end of by the end of this, I think we'll have said them.
Now, speaking of romantic partners, my husband Drew and I are both workaholics. He runs his own business, and I have a bunch of clients that often require 60 plus hours a week of writing and attention, in addition to a bunch of word podcasts and word books and things like that. But we sometimes don't make the brain space as a result of all this to reconnect and refocus on each other rather than our various screens. But this episode's sponsor, Paired, has been helping with that without making it feel mushy or forced.
Yeah, that's right. The Paired app is a relationship app that's built for couples who want better communication without turning it into a whole production. You spend 5 minutes a day, and that's it, just answering a question, doing a short activity, or participating in a guided conversation or something like that, designed by relationship experts and backed by actual research.
The way it works is you both answer first separately anytime, whether you're together or apart, and then you see each other's responses and you talk, and the activities cover everything from everyday logistics to intimacy to conflict and money and all the stuff couples tend to avoid talking about, but it also doesn't make it awkward.
Yeah, I tend to avoid just talking about the
except when podcasting, of course.
I mean, anything that can make that a little bit easier, I appreciate. And Paired has had more than 8 million downloads now. It won a Google Play Award for personal growth, and studies have shown that 89% of users see positive changes in their relationships within 3 months, according to Paired. Now, there is a free version of it, but one yearly subscription gives both partners access to it, which feels refreshingly sensible.
If that sounds like a nice way to get closer to your lover, your spouse, or your situationship, you can use our link in the description to get 25% off a yearly Paired premium subscription, bringing it to $29.99 for the full year for both of you. Use our link so Paired knows we sent you. Try it free and see how it fits your day.
That's the Paired app. Back to the sexy words now.
A euphemism we still use today is the birds and the bees, right? Which, that's both a euphemism for sex and for having babies as a result of sex.
Yeah, explaining the nature of sex, right?
And of course, birds and bees are associated with spring, and spring is associated with life and procreation. And of course, birds lay eggs and bees pollinate things. And then we have an additional layer of gendered and reproductive association, the idea of the birds and bees being a metonymic device for spring and therefore for sex. This has been around since the 1600s, but there is also an 1825 poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge that may have helped popularize that in this sense. He says, "All nature seems at work. Slugs leave their lair. Bees are stirring. The birds are on the wing. The winter is slumbering in the open air. Wears on his smiling face a dream of spring. And I, the wild, sole unbusy thing, nor honey make, nor pair, nor build, nor sing." So it's like I said, everybody's having sex but me.
Yeah, he's just jealous of all the horny little animals outside.
I think the most literal term that we have for a sexual act has to be cunnilingus, right?
Oof.
Like it's literally
yeah. So that's
licking
what
the
I was
vulva.
evoking when I came up with my
Right.
penny kunis.
Penny kunis, yeah.
Because that does literally mean vulva licking.
In 17th century English, they just said lick twat.
Oh. You know about this. I don't even think we covered that word in our swear word episode, but like in the north of England, that word is way more offensive than it is in the south of England. It's almost up there with the C word. It's very, very closely matched with the C word. British Prime Minister David Cameron famously said, "Too many tweets make a twat" on the radio. Just all of Northern England dropped their morning cups of tea. You can't say that on the radio.
I think that in my accent, it sounds less offensive just because it's not a word that your average American uses that much.
Yeah, and also just the vowel pronunciation in the in the American way of saying it. Twat is twat, like, yeah. I don't know. Well, it's like in oh no, I shouldn't point this out. But so my name, right? It's got.
I mean, you did introduce yourself as Rob Twats in an earlier episode, so.
Well, there might be a reason why I go by Rob rather than Robert, because if you run the two words together, you get something in the middle that means it sometimes can't be accepted as a username. Right?
Can I talk about one of my favorite sexy words, by the way? An old one.
You're not going to get a better opportunity than this. Go on.
A way older one than you would think is the word dildo, which... Did we talk about this one?
Yeah, we did talk about this one.
Oh, it's very funny.
But it's a beaut, and it's well worth...
It's probably from an Italian word meaning delight or something like that. But another less elegant theory is that it's a corruption of the English diddle, which might be right. But prior to its use as a word for a sex toy, it's in ballads and madrigals and plays, especially like the frolicsome ones, as a nonsense word along the lines of fa la la, which was also used as like they went rolling down the hill fa la la, and the fa la la is the implication that something else happened afterward. But my favorite part is the one of the first poems that it first appears in with this word is Thomas Nash's poem, The Choice of Valentines, or The Merry Ballad of Nash His Dildo. And it's about this man who is romping with a prostitute and they have a big orgasm together, but she is still horny. And he finds that his faint-hearted instrument of lust falsely hath betrayed our equal trust. He can't stay hard. So he hands over his trusty dildo and describes her launching into a lengthy and bittersweet ode to it as she joyfully gets herself off.
You were talking about this sort of song stuff. I did notice when I was looking through the historical thesaurus at the Oxford English Dictionary, which is very good if you want to look for historical synonyms for things. Among the words for vulva, they do have the term nonny nonny in there, which is another filler phrase from music of old, right? With a dildo and with a hey nonny nonny, popular in the 1600s. Oh, actually, it was in this dreadful quote. So John Florio, very famous translator of a lot of texts into English, we have much to thank him for. But he also here gives us a translation of, I think, the Italian fossa. And he describes it as used also for a woman's pleasure pit, nonny nonny, or palace of pleasure. Pleasure pit.
Pleasure pit.
I've got some more historical synonyms for vulva, if you like.
Excellent.
Jess. As well as nonny nonny, you've got from the 1200s, womb gate. That one's quite womb gate. Sort of literal.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
Fairly.
From the 1600s, your buggle boo or buggle bow, depending on your preference. A poem here called Loves of Hero and Leander. One hand he put upon her toe, the other on her buggle bow. Romantic.
Oh my goodness.
And then the Victorians would call it your front parlour.
Front parlor. I like that one. That's good.
Yeah, front
That's
parlour.
fun.
And you'll occasionally hear front, bottom. As for willies, just to show both sides.
Of course.
Yeah. The Old English word for a penis, you know this, was a pintle.
That's right.
Yeah, the ul at the end of that, and in a lot of Germanic words means a little something. Exactly what a pint is not totally clear. It might mean a pin, like it's your little pin or something like that, which is sort of sweet. In the 1500s, they would just call it a ferret, right? They would call a penis a ferret. But in a lot of the quotes where they're talking about it, they trade it off with the idea of the lady's bits or whoever being a coney. So a coney being a rabbit, right? So it's the idea of the ferret going down into the warren to hunt out the rabbits. From 1599, they put ferrets in the holes, fi, and they go up and down where the connies lie. I hate sexy poetry.
Cunny and coney have long been used as euphemisms for vaginas and such.
Yeah, because you have this similarity between coney and the Latin canis that means that bit.
Also because rabbits are quite prolific in the sexual department.
Apparently so.
That's also, we've discussed, that's why the clap is an STD, because a clapper was both a word for a rabbit's warren and a word for a pleasure house, and you might acquire the clap there.
Oh, there you go. And your regular reminder that Coney Island is named after rabbits, by the way. There you go. They were called... Rabbit used to mean a little rabbit. Now it means all rabbits. Right. It used to mean a little coney, would be a better way to put it. 1600s, it was quite common, apparently, to call your cock and balls your bagpipe.
That's great.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Or, alternatively, your tallywag. So this is what I spent part of my day doing this today. Like a part of my day just scrolling through, hoping no one came in. Lists and there's other stuff that I've been looking up as well. I'm just sat there blushing. I'm blushing less than I thought I would, just because I'm all blushed out from the research.
Some more modern words for bits, by the way. Boner, for example, was originally baseball slang for a gaffe or a mistake, short for bonehead. But of course, it was extended for obvious reasons. Yeah. Bone associations and baseball bat associations to erect penises. Chode is a big one. Oddly, from like the 1950s or so. And I don't know that I believe necessarily the explanations for this one, because the two that we have are that it's from the Navajo word chodis, meaning penis, or from a Hindi or Bengali word for copulate. So I'm not sure there.
Right. And the definition, Jess?
A chode is a short, thick penis.
Yeah.
Also, it's an insult. Schlong is supposedly from the Yiddish schlang, a word for a snake.
Yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense to me. By the way, if you're interested in German, one of the most common words for it is Schwanz, which actually sounds quite similar to that, but that means tail.
That's one of the theories about the probably the most likely meaning of the word penis itself is that it means something like tail.
Yeah.
Great. And then a couple of modern vagina terms. Cooch and the earlier coochie were popularized by Willie Dixon in his 1954 song Hoochie Coochie Man, which is rich with innuendos, and an earlier variation with a K, Hoochie Coochie, is recorded in the context of the 1893 World's Fair, where dancers performed a belly dancing inspired number of that name, inspired by a performer known as Little Egypt, though whether she was actually there is debated. And then the name of the dance may have been influenced by the stage name of a minstrel show performer named Hoochie Coochie Rice, or from the 1950s song The Ham Fat Man, which includes the phrase Hoochie Coochie Coochie. And the notion here is it's sort of one of those hey naughty naughty type of songs.
You do get these reduplicative terms like rumpy pumpy, stuff like that, right?
Speaking of which, how vulgar is the word naff?
It's not vulgar. It's not vulgar at all, actually.
It is a backslang shortening of fanny.
Oh, no way. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So it entered usage But I believe in England through Polari, which we talked about before, the gay slang, right? And a theory that is not true. I didn't know that the actual one was back slang, but it's not this. But it's one of those backronyms that's formed from it, right? There's the idea that it is not available for effing, right? Naff meant that. So if something was naff, it was like that. But you know, the word naff is introduced to the British public by the Radio 4 show Round the Horn, which featured a lot of Polari, to a public who had no idea that gay slang was being used. I don't think they knew. And words like naff got adopted. I think the first use of it is a description of a naff little gnome, which like a garden gnome. Yeah.
That's
so
fantastic.
no, it's not vulgar. It's not vulgar at all.
Oh, excellent. Good.
I mean, you've mentioned fanny. We should mention the key difference where you are versus where I'm from in the meaning of fanny.
It's back versus front. And it's also not vulgar at all over here, generally speaking.
It's one of the milder ways that you could refer to it in British English, right? I mean, fanny.
It's probably a name euphemism, right? Kind of like Johnson for a penis.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I don't think of it as that if I use it or if I hear someone use it, but it is the kind of word that you would hear like someone from the older generation using in quite a sort of non-sexualized context, right? I don't know. It's got a sister word in French, by the way, that I just discovered, which is foufoune, which in French from France, that means your front bits. But in Quebecois, it means your back bits. So they've got exactly the same...
the dynamic, yeah.
That's the
That's
same
really
transatlantic dynamic going on with the foufoune as we have with our fannies.
Oh, speaking of which, we should talk about pussy, because there is a myth about pussy that comes up a lot. Many armchair etymologists out there, which I guess, you know, here I am being one, but some people have speculated that
ergonomic chair
have speculated that pussy is somehow related to the temptingly similar term pusillanimous, and that is a myth. The two are unrelated, much like the English word, the late Latin word that pusillanimous is from, which means cowardly.
Yeah, it means cowardly, right? So how do people make that link between? Oh, you mean someone being a pussy?
Short. Yeah. So someone being a pussy, but really it's just sexist. That's what it is. Like that's the notion.
Yeah. So that's people trying to say that it's not transferred from a vulva reference, whereas actually it is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Which in turn is transferred from a feline reference for some reason.
Yeah, small furry animals. The oldest meaning of pussy is a small furry animal, a cat, usually, sometimes a rabbit, first recorded in the 1500s. It's thought to be imitative of like pss, 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 that kind of sound. And then the metaphorical link between women and girls and cats started in the early 1600s. We also have words like catty and catfight, which appear in reference to women. Cats are small and soft and cute, and also females have really loud sex. So maybe there's that. But as such, pussy spent a century or two attempting to decide whether it was a compliment, meaning small and cute, or an insult, meaning unpleasantly cat-like, and also became a word. It may be also influenced by words like Old Norse had puss meaning a pocket or a pouch. So maybe we have some of that going on as well.
You know, if you called someone a pussy cat, that would be very different to calling them a pussy, right? Right. One of them is sort of almost a compliment, and the other one is definitely not, but they're both saying the same thing.
Should we talk about some taboo things?
Well, I think by definition, no.
I was thinking we should talk about kinks.
Okay.
Okay. So the word kink is first recorded, of course, in relation to like rope and hair and strands and things, literally a bend. And it's used figuratively to describe deviations of other types, like Thomas Jefferson, for example, who, although no stranger to hanky-panky, meant kink in that kind of mental sense when in the 1700s he wrote, "Should Congress reject the nomination of judges for 4 years and make them during good behavior, as is probable, then should the judges take a kink in their heads in favor of leaving the present laws of Louisiana unaltered, that evil will continue for their lives unamended by us." This is the kink in your head was a mental deviation. It's a bad idea.
So it does the sort of sexual use of the word kink, does that mean a deviation?
Yes, that is the idea.
Right. Okay, that's where you've led us.
And this shows up in the mid 1900s, and a little bit earlier, we had some kinks of the sexual variety that were dubbed paraphilias by sexologist Friedrich Salomon Krauss. In the 1980s, the American Psychiatric Association added paraphilias to its Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which effectively made it a more clinical and neutral term than it was originally. But anyway, some of the more imaginative kinks, either generally or etymologically speaking, would include forniphilia, which is turning a human into a piece of furniture, which means like tying them up and sitting on them. Kleptophilia, which is a sexual attraction or sexual pleasure derived from stealing. There's also macrophilia, which is an interest in gigantism or excessive growth. Yeah, exactly. And then there's also microphilia, which is small things. There's mechanophilia, which is cars and machines, and metrophilia, which is poetry, which I think is kind of
not
healthy.
Sex with the London Underground. That's great.
I like narratophilia, which is an interest in obscene words, which, might be your jam if you're here right now.
If it's your jam, you want to get this book right here. Jess Ferris's Words from Hell.
I have a whole section on sexy words and things like that, including more of these kinks and paraphilias.
So paraphilia, by the way, so the para there is, I guess, like we get in paranormal, right? It sort of means running, or indeed parallel, right? It means running alongside what is.
Yes, so similar.
And indeed parachute, right? It has this sort of feeling of being alongside, but also against something. So
outside the norms.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, we have fetishes, right? Fetishes weren't originally sexual, much in the same way kinks were not. Well, not exclusively,
really?
Anyway. In addition to being another word for a kink, a fetish is still any object or charm that is thought to be imbued with supernatural powers or to represent a god and therefore be worthy of worship. And it's from a Portuguese word meaning charm or sorcery or allurement, or as an adjective, it can even mean artificial.
I had no idea about that. So you obviously can't use fetish in English in any way outside of the sexual.
Well, no, because in like anthropological contexts, sometimes objects of value will be described as fetishes.
Fetishized, yeah.
The sexual sense was kind of transferred into the word in the 1800s, largely by Henry Havelock Ellis, which I mentioned several times in my books because he wrote a lot of books about sex. He also was extremely problematic. So, take with a grain of salt.
Do you know Ernst Gräfenberg?
I don't. I have never met him.
Ernst Gräfenberg is the man after which the G-spot is named. He is the inventor of the interuterine device. Actually, a fascinating man. But the reason I mention him is, early writings on gynecology are exclusively written by men, right? So it's quite, and reading the sort of the clinical descriptions they have is quite.
Yeah, I love when it's like the people discovered the G-spot or the clitoris.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile,
no one knew. No one was aware that women could feel pleasure in a certain spot until the 1930s. Really? That's the only. That was when men worked it out. But the G-spot gets named after him after his death. It gets named after him in 1981. He actually had absolutely nothing to do with actually that particular. Part of gynecology. He was concerned with a different branch of it altogether, and he did develop the first interuterine device, or at least the first one that worked.
Good for you, Ernst.
Although, do you know what he called it? He called it the Gräfenberg ring. So he was German. He did end up practicing mostly in America because he had to flee the Nazis, as so many Jewish scientists did, and actually an awful lot of sexual research was lost during the Second World War because of Nazi squeamishness about such issues, and obviously that a lot of Jewish people were doing the research.
IUDs you said it was a ring. Now they're like T-shaped.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I do remember that bit from school. I haven't actually had to use one.
We should talk about the word orgasm.
There's that blush.
We should talk about orgasms, though, while we're at it.
Yeah.
Orgasm. The word orgasm is from the Greek orgasmos, which means excitement or swelling, and was originally used in contexts like animals in heat or ripening fruit, both of which are common in imagery connected with human sexuality and horniness throughout history. When it first appeared in English in the 17th and 18th centuries, it most often described women's orgasms, which were as we've discussed, the frequent subject of both lewd works of poetry and medical writings at the same time.
And am I right in thinking that a climax was originally like a staircase or a ladder or something?
It means ladder. That's right. It's Greek for ladder. It was first used as a synonym for orgasm, in part thanks to British author, paleobotanist, and women's rights activist Marie Stopes, interestingly enough. She was the first woman faculty member at the University of Manchester, and she founded Britain's first birth control clinic. Very accomplished.
The blushiest part of my day was looking through a Kama Sutra book.
Oh, good. I love that.
It felt relevant. So Kama Sutra, by the way, it means thread of love in Sanskrit. And this book, the Kama Sutra, written in, I think, the first century, so it's 2,000 years old, by a guy called Vatsyayana, right? And it's not just a book about sex, okay? It's about how to acquire wealth. It's about how to acquire religious merit. And it's about how to acquire also love and sensual pleasure, right? But there are things in there like how to train a parrot to talk, or what furniture you should be adorning your house with, right? There's a really run-of-the-mill stuff. But there is also, dozens upon dozens of sex positions.
Beautifully illustrated in the original editions.
Yeah, I didn't look at it. This is a bit where I really didn't want anyone to come in. But I was looking at one from the 1980s, and it was photos. But in the whole book, you don't see a single penis or vulva. In the whole book. It's kind of amazing.
I feel like that was kind of the point of the original edition, right? Yeah. Is like the mechanics of how they put together.
I mean, a lot of the sex positions look very, very similar to one another if you don't see sort of up close. Right. I would say for example, let me talk you through some of the sex position names that caught my eye. These must be English translations, obviously, of the original, with a bit of license from the translator. But you have the yawning position, which is one I'm pretty sure I must have given someone.
Ouch! Felt that one over here.
You have the Congress of the Crow.
That sounds cool. That sounds like a thing that witches do for fun in the woods.
Yeah, well, maybe it is. The snake trap, the silkworm spinning a cocoon, the splitting of the bamboo, which is horrendous.
That sounds horrible. I don't think that's how you're supposed to do it.
The transverse lute, the late spring donkey, and I'm so sorry about this one, driving the peg home.
I mean, that's pretty standard.
It's a fascinating book that only becomes known in the English-speaking world, really, from a translation from 1883, right? So this is a 2,000-year-old document that someone gets around to translating and explaining how to do all the sexy bits. And it's really the sexy bits that catch the imagination of English speakers. And that's why we think of it as this guide to sex, which is part of it, but it's not all of it.
Have you explored the lexical gap that the word virginity creates?
The lexical gap that the word virginity creates.
A lexical gap is an instance where we have like a concept that doesn't have a word, right? But it is hypothetically allowable by our language. So there is no specific singular English noun for someone who is not a virgin. Now, obviously, like the concept of virginity is a social construct. People are not fundamentally altered by the union of their naughty bits with someone else's. But if we're going to persist in using the word virgin, the concept of virginity is going to remain a thing. So what word would you use for a non-virgin, regardless of how much sex that they have had? So there are lots of words to describe people with an extensive amount of sexual experience, like slut and lecher and harlot and things like that, which, by the way, slut was originally used for dirty men and then was transferred to sexual women. Some of them are congratulatory. We got playboy and playgirl and stud and Casanova and dynamo. And then we've got some that are in between, like rake and libertine. But after the first time you have sex, what do you become? are you like, what is the word there?
A legend.
I propose copulist.
A copulist.
Copulist. Though that sounds a little more professional.
Copulized, achieved copulist status. If I can take us back to love briefly, I had a realization when I was in France recently, and that is that English doesn't have a word for people who are getting married.
Betrothed?
And yeah, engaged, they are betrothed. We don't have a word. That's not it, is it? That's not quite it. Like at the wedding, what do you call the bride and groom collectively?
Oh, I see.
The happy couple. It's because French has marié, right? The people getting married, the marrieds.
The marrieds.
But I don't think English has a word like that just means the two people. Like we do all this faff for the wedding, but we haven't bothered to come up with a name for the two people that we're doing it for.
That's another lexical gap too that we have, right? Is we have bridal, but we don't have groomal. And the reason we don't have groomal is because bridal is a compound noun originally. Yeah. It meant bride ale because you could tack ale onto a word to make it into a party. Like scythe ale was a harvest party.
So you couldn't, something to do relating to the groom can be bridal in theory. Right.
Because it pertains to the party that is related to the bride.
Lexical gaps. There's a gentler episode that we can do in future.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so actually, because I did try to stick to the brief of doing some sort of love words as well, Jess. I feel like we've abandoned that somewhat. But you might have come across this because this word has taken on a sort of popularity in the English-speaking world as a result of the rise of K-pop and J-pop. But Japanese has the word skinship, which means skinship, right? It's spelled SUKINSHIPPU, but it is just a Japanese rendering of skinship, which obviously is not an English word.
So does that mean people you have like touching skin with?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's gentler than that. It's like your sort of close physical relationship with someone, and it can be sexual, but primarily it's not really. It's like if you've got a friend that you enjoy touching,
friends with benefits, that kind of thing.
Really, it's not like that. It's not.
Okay.
It's not like that. It's more affection. It's more akin to affection.
Aw, your cuddle buddy.
Yeah, and this is why it comes a lot because K-pop's not that sexualized, right? It's a bit more about sort of friendship and hanging out and stuff. And so this word skinship now is in English, but it's come from because there's a Korean version of it as well, which I'm going to mispronounce, but it's also like sukinship, right? It's come from an invention in Japanese of an English word that's then also traveled to Korea and then has come back into English, but it was never an English word before that.
That's really fun. We have a lot of ships right now, and I think part of it is because the fan fiction crowd started using like shipping characters that they were into back in the day, and now so we have the ones that I've heard lately that the kids are using other than relationship are flirtationship, you're just flirting and you don't go beyond that, an attractionship, you have an attraction and you don't communicate it, a solutionship, you go to each other for problem solving, ambitionship, the idea is to fix the partner, like I can fix him. A transaction ship is you give something to get something, of course. And then a vacation ship is someone you only get involved with on a vacation.
It doesn't feel like any of those are lexical gaps. I bet we can find a word for all of those.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I didn't spend too long on the skinship, I have to say, before falling down a German sexy rabbit hole, because there's a fantastic German website. Let me find the name of it. It's called Sprachnoodle. Sprach means language, and noodle means noodle. It's like a really good German slang website if you ever fancy exploring some German slang. And if you look up, so the actual, the sort of technical term for sex in German is Geschlechtsverkehr, which means gender transport. So it's their equivalent of intercourse, right?
Beautiful.
Sexual intercourse. But they, and I really wish I hadn't looked these up. Another term, I don't know how widely used they are, but they're in this slang dictionary. 21 Fingerübung, which means the 21 finger practice, which means sex.
I see. Yeah, okay. I was like,
where's the extra finger coming from?
Yep, there it is. There it is.
You have noodle aerobic, which means noodle aerobics, which is quite cute.
I like the 21 fingers because that implies we're doing more than just involving genitals. It's nice. Like it implies a full scale, complete experience with lots of foreplay and other things.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you like it. How do you like Rohrverlegung, which means pipe laying?
We also do that one. We also use that one in English.
Do we?
I mean, I don't, but someone does.
I guess we could do. Okay, this is the most German one by far. Wurstwippen, which means sausage rocking.
That's fun.
And this one's very German in a different way. Intravaginale Chromosomenapplikation.
You lost me like halfway through, but I got the first couple bits.
Yeah, it means intravaginal chromosome application.
Yeah, that just sounds it sounds so medical.
It does. Oh, they also have Knusperhütenwalzer, which means gingerbread house waltz.
Wait, why a gingerbread house?
I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't interrogate any of these. That's where my research stopped, actually. That was when I went off and made a coffee and said, that's enough.
By the way, on the more romantic front, the reason we use the word erotic, of course, is from the Greek god of love, especially carnal love, Eros. And the word entered English in the 1600s, but it really took off in the Freudian era when psychology turned sexy. The ancient Greeks had multiple words for love as well and divided them into 4 categories. Erau was a word for like passionate physical love and desire. Filio was general affection, as we've seen in other words like philia. Agapo was for content, happy affection, and then stergo was typically love with power dynamics, which sounds bad, but it could be applied to things like the love of a parent or a ruler for a subject and things like that.
These all make sense. I mean, they do make sense, don't they? There's different forms of affection, but they almost parallel those various ships that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, don't they? Different complexities, the different dynamics that drive our affections. It can't all be lust. Give us some surprisingly sexy words to give us a surprising ending to this surprisingly sexy episode.
So there are a number of words in English that have a connection with sex or sexual organs that you might not expect. One of them is the word furnace, which is hot in more ways than one. It has a lot more to do with sexy architecture than you might expect.
Sexy architecture.
Sexy architecture. A furnace isn't just physically hot; it's also like hot, and you can guess why the word furnace is a bit naughty by looking at its Latin source, which is fornus, which meant an oven or a kiln. And it is related to the word fornicate. And both furnace and fornicate are ultimately from a root meaning to heat or to make warm. But funny enough, the word fornicate doesn't derive from this word because sex is hot, at least not exclusively for that reason. And instead, it has to do with the Latin fornix, which is a term for an arch or a vaulted opening or a covered walkway, so named for its resemblance to the dome shape of a traditional brick oven or fornus. And the part of your brain, by the way, called the fornix is also named because it is arch-shaped, but the Latin fornix was also a word for a brothel because the arches under the Circus Maximus and other large event venues were popular places for sex workers to hang out.
No way. So fornication is like love under the arches, basically. Yep.
Well, maybe not love, but definitely sex.
It's trying to be nice. Yeah, okay. A sub-arch transaction.
Yes. Another sexy F word, but not the one you might think, is fascinate, which I guess this one's less sexy and more anatomical. If you were fascinated by something, of course, you are spellbound by it. And it comes from the Latin word fascinare, meaning to bewitch or to enchant. And it was originally used to refer to the power of witches and mythical creatures to enthrall you. And the more positive connotation to hold your attention in a delightful way didn't come around until the early 1800s, almost 200 years later. But if you look back farther, the origin of fascinare isn't 100% clear, but it's probably something to do with fascinum, which makes sense. That was a word for particularly the divine phallus, which was a symbol that appears all over Roman effigies and amulets and was meant to invoke the protection of the phallic god Fascinus. They often have wings. They're just, if you look up Fascinus, you will see, or Fascinum, you will see flying penises everywhere. They are all over the place. And the word fascinate is probably related to this. So that's fun.
We should do a short or something on penises of the ancients, because you've got those, and you've also got the really graphic Egyptian hieroglyphs of penises. I don't know if you've seen these, but they've got like, they're called like phallus and phallus with emission, and they look exactly like what a 13-year-old boy is drawing on his friend's back with chalk.
That's fantastic.
Let's finish with penises of the ancients.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm showing off my my shirt here.
Hey, your ambigram shirt.
Yeah, I've got the new Words Unravelled ambigram etymology shirt. I've got this, and I've got a hoodie that I wore out on a night out in Berlin the other day. It's maroon coloured with this same yellow. I was sat there very, very proud of it. And then someone shouted, "Gryffindor!" I didn't think about the colours.
Very funny.
Anyway, it's available in the store. Click below. And also do check out our special link for Paired.
We'll catch you next time on a slightly less R-rated edition of Words Unravelled.
Yeah, I think this might get demonetized, Jess. We might not make any money from this one. Never mind.
If they pay for this episode, is it considered sex work?
Oh. Yeah, why not? Lift the stigma. Why not?
Excellent.
Bye-bye.